Welcome to episode 10 of the Heartbeats of Adapted PE podcast. We're so excited that you're here joining us today. I'm your host, Jen Hebink, and I am a full-time adapted PE teacher in a district about 40 minutes west of Minneapolis. And the Heartbeats of Adapted PE podcast is a space where we aim to connect, inspire, and amplify the voices of adapted PE teachers and those who support all students. At Heartbeats Adapted PE, we celebrate both the heart and the beat of our work. The heart being the storytelling and the lived experiences that shape who we are as educators, and the beat is the rhythm of our daily routines in this essential field, the work we show up for every single day. The Heartbeats of Adapted PE podcast is brought to you once a month by our sponsor, Fit and Fun Playscapes. Their mission, much like ours, is to support all students in movement, and we are grateful for their partnership. And we encourage you to check them out. You can find them at Fit and Fun Play on X. In episode 9 of our previous episode, you heard from 2025 Shape America Middle School Teacher of the Year, Heather Bird, along with our current Shape America President, Joe Deutsch. They shared Heather's journey as a person with a disability, and her story is truly inspirational and impactful. Heather is a teacher with a disability who teaches students of all abilities, and her voice is one that every PE teacher and adapted PE teacher needs to hear. In that episode, we also shared that December 3rd is International Day of Persons with Disabilities Day. We wanted to recognize and celebrate the health and well-being of our listeners, teachers, and students with disabilities, while we also acknowledge that disability history includes many hard chapters in disability rights. Because of that, we wanted to continue these conversations by inviting educators who live this experience every single day. And that's why we are truly honored to welcome our next guest, an adapted PE teacher with a disability, to share how their life experiences shape the way they support students of all abilities. I am excited to welcome the 2026 Shape America Western Adapted Physical Education Teacher of the Year, Chris Ahrens, joining us from California. Here comes Chris. Chris, welcome. I have your awesome headshot here. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Very excited to be here, Jen. Thank you.
Absolutely. Can you share a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and where you got your undergrad? Let's start with that.
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in upstate New York. Moved around a little bit. My dad was a school administrator, so I'm sure you can imagine how that goes a little bit. As you climb the ladder a little bit, kind of. So we had to move a little bit, but where I identify being from is the Syracuse, New York area, but truly was almost 45 minutes to an hour north of there, really rural area in a town called Pulaski, New York. After high school, went out to SUNY Brockport, which the assessment is named after, for those of you that are familiar. Went out to SUNY Brockport, undergrad in physical education with concentrations in teacher education and adaptive physical education, and then did my master's there in adaptive physical education.
Awesome. So now that you're here, 2025, yeah. What does your teaching look like? What is your caseload? Are you still teaching full-time adaptive PE? What does that look like?
Yeah, San Diego Unified School District, so the city of San Diego school district. We've got, we're big. We're the second biggest in California. We're tiny compared to LA, but nobody besides New York and Chicago are going to touch LA. But still 175-ish schools. Wow. So there's actually 39 adaptive physical education teachers. My role is actually pretty unique because I am still in the field teaching, but I'm also one of 3 lead teachers, which is a really unique setup. I'm learning to have sort of that level between your administrator and your teachers of like a leadership role that is there to advocate. So 2 days are in the office, 3 days are in the field, and I'm at a middle school and a high school currently. But across 15 years, I've done it all. I've done preschool all the way to high school now. And so I really enjoy the blend because I get to do coaching, I get to do support, I get to plan professional developments. I get to do all of that fun stuff while also not losing touch with the field, which I think is a complaint often with administration, right? Is that you did it for like 3 years, 20 years ago, and you've been in admin ever since. Remember what it is, but my 2 other leads and they're exceptional, and we're out there still doing the job while also doing the other sort of office stuff too.
That's so awesome. I think sometimes just having that mix helps us so much. And I completely agree with you. Like, still being in the field and then building professional development, being able to advocate for your team is such a huge thing. So that's so cool that you get to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I shared a little bit about how we're bringing voices onto the show about teachers who teach students of all abilities, teachers with disabilities who teach students with disabilities, right? Teachers with disabilities who teach their students with disabilities. And it's so cool that you've been one of the teachers in the back of my brain. I was like, I need to bring him on the show too. And the timing of all this, as we found out that you are the 2026 Shape America Western Adapted PE Teacher of the Year. How cool is that? But I want you to share a little bit about like your disability and how you've had to advocate for yourself in physical education.
Yeah, I suppose I think I'm probably unique, but not alone in that I do have a physical disability, and I'm in the field of physical education and adapted physical education. So just I have mild cerebral palsy. It affects the left side of my body. Being, I was born in the 1900s, so
Yep.
things weren't what they are today. So I was born 3 weeks late, and on a Friday, my mom went in and everything was good. And they said, come back on Monday. And all of a sudden there was an irregular heartbeat and the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. So anyways, feels like there's a line going down the middle of my body, like from my eyes to my mouth. Like there's muscular differences in my mouth I can sense. So there's a line going down the middle of my body, which classifies me as a hemiplegic. If people are wondering the terms, that means one side of my body's affected. It's my left side. It's all I've ever known. So some people are often like, whoa, that's amazing. It's like, it's all I've known as physically anyways. Right. So it's that. And yeah, I actually wrote a chapter for Dr. Justin Hagel out of ODU. Justin and I actually did undergrad and grad school together too at SUNY Brockport, but and he put together a book of individuals with disabilities perspectives on their physical education experience. And so that really forced me to be reflective, something I hadn't done, quite honestly. You would think I would have, but I was just living life. And so I went back through, and I remember, I wish I remembered this gentleman's name, but I remember being in third grade, and like there was a gymnastics unit, and like that was hard for me physically, right? Strength and stuff, et cetera. And like him just being like, hey, it's all good. Like, I got you. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but and I that really went a long way with me. Right. Or then, like I talked a lot about the difficulty of swimming units. So then I remember being in fourth grade, and like, I was the only kid to start in the shallow end group because like the teacher just wasn't sure what I'd be able to do. And then I speak about actually like testing out and into one of the groups that was allowed like full access to the pool. And so, another time I remember playing Little League Baseball, and I had to do like a Jim Abbott glove change. And the umpire was like, what'd your parents buy you the glove for the wrong hand? And I'm like, no, like I have to play this way. Right. So, I guess throughout my life, without realizing it, there's always been a level of trying to educate people about what's tough. As I got to high school, it might be coming back scarily enough, but the president's physical fitness testing was all the rage when I was in high school. And I luckily my teacher was like, hey, like pull-ups, like I can't do pull-ups. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But they never, I am lucky that I don't think I can actually point to, there were times like swimming, I was always last, but that wasn't like, that just was what it was. Right. Like, but like, there was never a time where like I had to perform in front of people and like feel ostracized because of it. So I was lucky in that sense, because I know that's not everyone's story. And then even in college, we had to pass physical fitness tests at SUNY Brockport. So like the bench press test, again, I had a great teacher who was willing to work with me and was like, here, like, but I was able to do the leg press test. I passed the mile run, passed everything else. So like, they weren't going to hold me up because like bench press was difficult. Right. So it was just always, privately approaching the teachers and kind of talking it through with them and going from there. And I remember being little, I would come home and talk to my parents about it. And I think my parents certainly advocated for me too with the younger ages, but as I got older, I had to do it myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that puts it into perspective as you share that. Like, some of our students don't have those advocacy skills. And so I feel like even with Heather's story that I brought on in episode 9, like she and you have had to, not had to, but part of your life story is being able to learning to advocate for yourself. Heather's story was like, hey, I got to figure out a way to do this. And she could not necessarily demonstrate the same way that everybody else was. So is that something that when you teach your students, have you had to reframe or just do things differently because maybe you haven't been able to demonstrate? Or what is your strong point in that?
Yeah, so like crab walk, I can't crab walk. I don't have the range of motion in my left side to get the arm behind me, let alone maybe the strength slash bilateral coordination is a real issue for me. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the one that jumps out. So yeah, I mean, I've leaned on. I use peers to model when I need to. Perez piffs. We call them piffs.
Yeah.
Um, and then even using when I have an indoor space, I mean, people are gonna be like, "Oh, woe is you, Chris. You have to be outside so much. You're in San Diego." I get it, but like
Yeah.
the use of GIFs is more difficult outside than it is inside. So I just say that
Right.
when I do have an indoor space, like I have used GIFs as well to demonstrate, right? So yeah, so
Awesome.
having to get creative and get around it. Also, this is a cute story about when I used to teach preschool. Like I would demonstrate things, right? Like, oh, we're gonna do scissor arms, and so like my left arm, I guess you could say it bows a bit at the elbow, and so
Mm-hmm.
these adorable little 3-year-olds were like they were imitating my arm, not to be mean, but because that's what they
That's
thought.
what they see.
That's how they saw it, right? They're like, oh, that. And so it was just like that's just a super cute story of like
Oh,
teaching through the years, and like you have to be able to laugh about stuff like that because again, they had no idea.
100%.
But yeah, absolutely. To your point, the demonstrating has to be it's top of mind for me about like, well, how am I going to demonstrate that, right?
Yeah.
Things that type of thing.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit, maybe in your early years and how it's kind of changed, but like the social piece of like feeling like you're not like everybody else, that you have to do things differently? Were there any like social anxieties or like you're like, great, now I have to go talk to the teacher about this? And what were some of those social pieces that you felt like you had to kind of work through?
Yeah, so I think what's unique for me, Jen, is that I haven't always understood like what world do I live in because I have a foot
Mm.
in both world, right? So I have a foot in
Hmm.
the disability world, but I also if I put my hand in my pocket, I'm just walking down the street and nobody's like, I mean, I have a slight limp, but like you really need a trained eye to catch it, right? Unless I'm really
Yep.
fatigued. But um, and so then like I have also like I grew up in this entirely able-bodied world, right? So I
Yeah.
think for me it was like not knowing which one I fell within. And then so like I was lucky that I went to a small public high school. It allowed me to play sports, but like at the same time, those sports were more difficult for me than my peers. And I don't know that my peers necessarily always put two and two together, right? And so
Hmm.
yeah, I think there were some social anxieties. I think by high school I was never too uncomfortable about approaching the teacher in terms of a phys ed
Okay.
sense. Um, but I wanted to fit in, right? So I wanted to
Hmm.
have the opportunity to play in sports, but like, did I have a coach? Like I never had a coach that understood how to strength train me, right? They didn't understand like the
Yeah.
discrepancies in strength and things like that. So I never got as strong as the other kids. I never, did things like that. I maybe didn't have coaches think about on the football field like they had me play center. Like, should I have been playing center with my one arm out the ball? Like and I like dove headfirst into it, wanted to do it because I wanted a spot. I wanted to feel cool, right? So
Hmm.
stuff like that. Tennis actually became. It's funny because I know we'll get into soccer, but tennis became outside of trying to serve, which is hard for anyone. I mean, it's basically a one-sided sport for me. So tennis is
Hmm.
kind of where my athleticism took off, and that did bring me confidence and things like that. So yeah, but there was definitely that social piece of, and even into adulthood, it's like where do I fit and things like that.
Yeah, interesting. Um, I know like every single person like has the thought of like, man, I don't know if I fit in here, right? But
Yeah.
also to have that physical piece of kind of navigating like, well, my physical body doesn't fit in here, but it also doesn't fit in this other space
Right.
too. That is complex.
Well, and it became, not to go deep on your listeners here, but it became complex for me on like a dating level, right? So like I struggle
Yeah.
like because what you see of like what typically people would what women would be attracted to is like I mean, I know the magazine covers aren't what we should be
Hmm.
going by, but then like to me it's like, well, I have to find someone that's okay that I'm like half broken, so to speak, right? You know what I mean? I say that with a sense
Yeah.
of humor, but like that is the reality. Like at some point, and I have a wonderful wife that I'm still crazy
Hmm.
about, but at some point somebody has to decide they're okay with it, right? And that's not
Yeah.
something like an able-bodied person faces. Now there's other things, there's red flags and beige flags and whatever. And so maybe I'm
Mhm.
overthinking it, but it is something that I was like, well, it does come into things, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, yeah, like you have to think about all those things and how complex that must be. Oh my goodness.
It's all right.
Um,
She's let me know that if I break my right arm, she's out. She's out because that means everything. So she's out if that happens. So no, we have a good sense of humor about it.
oh, that's good. That's so good. Can we talk? I know we kind of mentioned about some of the things, but like growing up, maybe in your early years compared to your later years, like what were some of those units in PE that were like easy for you? You're like, oh, I got this. Like no one needs to help me. Like what were some of those things that you're like, oh yes, this is my unit.
Yeah, like so just honestly the majority of them, like truthfully,
Okay.
like the majority of them, but like racket sports, I've always had pretty good hand-eye coordination because I played baseball growing up, and then eventually that transitions pretty well to the hardest thing to do is to hit a baseball. So and when the ball's moving slower, it's easier in those other objects. So like
Mm-hmm.
those were great. Even sports like basketball, I mean, I could dribble well with my right hand. It just wasn't with my left hand, right? So like that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like just everybody knew I was going right, but at the end of the day, it was fine. The ones that became difficult were more the like the physical fitness, like I mentioned. The swimming was always difficult. Even the weight
Yep.
room had some difficulties, but I could still make it work. And obviously, I would have to say that my experience was good enough that I wanted to go into the field. So it's not like I'm one
Right.
of these people that had, we hear the horror stories as teachers, like, oh, PE for me. And it's like, you hear these stories about people that it was an awful experience. Like, that's obviously not my story. So it was just those few units. I would obviously the ropes were still coming down for the rope climb. I wasn't exactly climbing to the ceiling, So,
Yeah.
um, just kind of those more that focused around, I would say, physical strength and things like that.
Yeah. Now, I know you talked about like your undergrad experience being born in the 1900s
Yeah.
and but even like my what year did you graduate your undergrad from?
Well, I was on the handy 5-year plan, so it was '07.
Yep.
It should have been
Oh
'06. It
seven.
was
Okay.
'07.
So I graduated from UW River Falls in 2010. So I'm not too far off of you.
Okay.
But you had said that you had to for your undergrad do a like weightlifting tests and swim tests and like almost like test out of every single unit. Is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah, so we had yes, and then I'm just trying to think of the particulars as you asked the great question. So yeah, so we had to pass a physical fitness test that was attached to a class, right? And so that included
Okay.
like the mile run, a
Oh,
certain
that's
percentage
unreal.
on the bench press, which I don't even know that they do anymore because I'm sure legality wise it would struggle to hold up. But again,
Yeah.
we're going back. So
Yep.
then and then there was a leg press, there was crunches, I think, and then yeah, there was that, and then yeah, we had to take a swim class, and we had to pass this. We just had to pass the swim class. Sorry, so obviously there was a clinical
Okay.
test with that, but that was actually just passing an aquatics class, and then we had activity classes, as I'm sure you did. We had activity
Yep.
classes that went through that. So I would actually not call out the swimming to say that like you had to pass the swim test. You just had to pass.
Okay.
You had to pass a class, right? So,
Yep.
but I mean, we were swimming full lengths, and I'm like, holy smokes! And I think I got
Yeah.
like a C in that class because it's like not getting the time you're asking for. So, but yeah, no, but the physical fitness one, yeah, that was a thing. And again, though, I mean, I still remember that professor and his name, and like he didn't even bat an eye. He's like, yeah, he's like, well, he's like, I'll test you in all the other ones that you can do or whatever. You know what I mean? So, he was great about it.
Yeah, that's so interesting just to think about because like where we are in history right now, like a lot of us are saying like these, presidential fitness tests are worthless for our students, and then we had to pass them in college and like it's interesting to be where we are and be like, well, that wasn't good for my students, so probably wasn't good for us then
You know,
either.
I know.
Um,
I just think we need so much more nuance in our field, right? So like
yes.
the test itself and to compare themselves and to maybe feel bad, sure, I'm totally on board with that. But I think kids, and this is more of a, I suppose, a general physical education theme, but I
Mhm.
think kids learning baseline metrics to then goal set so that they can improve upon a skill, and it doesn't have to be fitness based, but just in general, I don't think that's a skill that, at least in my district, I'm seeing universally taught across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah, goal setting.
I do think there's a
Mhm.
space for goal setting within fitness that could be healthy and okay as long
Mhm.
as they are really just comparing it to themselves of where they've started and where they've come from.
Mhm.
And I just think our field oftentimes, in conversations with outsiders, like we have to take the time to provide that nuance to the value of them.
100%. Yeah, and that kind of brings me to our next conversation, because I think in the last few years in our profession, there's been a lot of kind of just like updates. Like in Minnesota, we do differentiated learning really, really well. But this conversation about universal design for learning is really just changing the way that a lot of us teach. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, number one, are you familiar with it, and do you use it in class? UDL, are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like in my brain, I just think it's teaching. Like
Right.
I don't think I call it out in my brain going into a lesson, right? So my
Yeah.
wife my wife happens to be a teacher and she is on her MTSS team, which I think stands for multi-tiered support strategies, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
so, she comes home and she tells me about it and she's all in on the MTSS philosophy, but she kind of said that, it's not really a philosophy. Like in a lot of people's mind, it's
Mhm.
just like it's what you should be doing, right? Like
Yeah.
it should be what you're doing. And I kind of view that like I'm not so well versed in UDL that I could speak educated to the correct vernacular and things like
Mhm.
that. But I just think it's teaching, right? So when I try to educate my teachers that I oversee on UDL, I always use it's probably overdone, but the curb cutout theory, right? Like the curb
Mhm.
cutout is now people can access the world better. Like that's just a change that like everyone benefits from.
Right.
So yeah, for me, I mean, multiple equipment, student autonomy, they can choose, right? So if we're doing badminton, they don't all have to use the same badminton racket. They don't even all have to use birdies. Now I do have a challenge this year that I have a young lady that is so wildly scared of balloons that it's made badminton a more challenging unit to find
Yeah.
objects that go slowly and things like that. Um, but I really think UDL is I just think it's good teaching. That's what I would say at the end of the day, and it doesn't like anything's better than nothing. So as long as you're trying to differentiate your instruction and
Yeah.
provide autonomy and choice and things like that, I think you're on the right path. And if you want to go deeper, there's certainly text and research that allows you to go deeper on it. But at the end of the day, I just think we have to approach every lesson with being like, not it's an even bigger spectrum of how our students learn differently. And
Mhm.
I think I just think you have to do it. You have to give
Yeah.
choice and equipment options and
Yep.
playing space considerations and lower nets or higher nets or whatever it might be, right?
Yep. Yeah, our friend Carrie Flint. I got to meet Carrie in Shape Baltimore this year, and she's watching. She says, "Yes, good teaching." So, Carrie, thank you so much for joining the show with your comments.
I saw
Um,
Carrie present when I was a brand new teacher at NAPEX, so I'm
no
familiar with
way.
work with music and everything like that. So wonderful stuff.
Yes, Carrie says hi. Here, we'll bring her. She says hi. There we go. Um, yeah, so just good teaching. And I know like when I was presenting, I brought this up in a previous episode too, but I was presenting at Shape Baltimore with Dr. Megan Johnson. If you ever get to hear Megan Johnson, um, we did a 50 hacks in 50 minutes. And at the end of the time, Dr. Lauren Lieberman was like, this is all just good teaching. Like, that's just what it is. Like, this is what we should be doing. Why is
Yeah,
it hacks? But,
yeah,
like, we need to hear those things, right? That there's not just one way to teach. And there's more ways to engage our students 100%.
but
Yeah. So can you share this? I kind of ask all of our teachers that come on this or a version of this question, but can you share one time as a teacher that you saw a light bulb go off in a student and it was like something you'd been teaching them and all of a sudden they just got it. Like they understood it or they made awesome progress in it. Do you have like a example of that? Something that
yeah,
kind
I
of
think
filled you up a little
yeah, I think actually I was doing when I had more elementary schools. I did a lot of station work in my settings, and so I'd done visuals and demonstrations and things like that. And this was I had a crab walk station that I had been
bit?
working on
Mhm.
for some time. And then I brought the gifts. I set up an iPad with just a gift going nonstop. And this guy, it's funny, I have him as a high schooler now, this guy. And so I've had
Mhm.
him for many years and he just started doing it. Right. He just that. So
Awesome.
that level of prompting was what made it work for him. Right. And so, yeah, that was really cool. And it made you start to think like, okay, if it was that for him, like just me demonstrating something isn't always going to be enough, right? So it forces you to think, or just having visual pictures may not resonate
Yep.
because a student trying to take pictures and process that into, wait, like me, this, like what, right? Like there's so many steps to that. And so just seeing that sort of happen. And then I'll also just share too that a lot of the work I've done is supporting students in general physical education.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool is when the general ed students are like, Mr. Ahrens, so and so did this or so and so did that. Like they see their growth, right? They see it
Yeah.
them. And so that's always really cool. Or maybe they, as a peer model, have taught something and they're like, "Oh, they're doing it. Like, how cool is that?" So I would say that those are probably just the two types of scenarios that have that top of mind for me right here. But what about you? What was your aha moment?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I had a recent one where I had a student in sixth grade. I have students sixth grade through 12th grade. And she was coming in. It was a small unified PE class. I was going to ask you about unified PE next. It's a very small unified PE class. And she came in. She's every day just unregulated, right? Having a really, really hard time, sensory overload. I'm like, oh, this is not working. And I finally was like, you know what? We need a different setting for her. We need a smaller setting. And so for 2 years, I took this girl and we went to a smaller setting, one-on-one setting, worked on a routine, a 20-minute routine. And in eighth grade, her case manager switched and she's like, I think we need to try this again. I'm like, okay. You kind of just need like a little bit of bravery and you're like, okay, this didn't happen in the past, but maybe if we set up some of the supports that she has been using in her classes outside of my class, right? And so instead of visuals, I started using a whiteboard timer, going in the same order over and over and over, using the things that she's familiar with, and then adding maybe one thing that's different, right? A 4-step schedule, and then having her check it off as you go. So I also defined her space, right? I'm learning a lot. Students with autism often need to have a defined space that is only theirs. And so she can come in and have her own defined space, but other students are doing their all together in the rest of the room, right? And so I set up a mat that kind of was like up, and it's almost like a giant cubby, not like a cubby, but like a space that she could come in and stand in and have less distraction, right? And so I set up her defined space. She's standing on a dot. We write 4 things on her whiteboard, and it's not pictures, it's written, and it's whiteboard markers. And so she does her warm-ups. She checks it off. She does her sit-ups. She checks it off. And all like for 2 months, all of a sudden she's coming in, she's regulated. And I recognize that a lot of times now she's like unregulated before she comes, and I'm the class she gets regulated. She's back to following this. So it's like finding the supports that work, finding the defined space that works, standing on a spot, right? Making everything all the same. And all of a sudden she's like slowly but surely entering into the space with her peers again. And doing even like sneaking into the activities with her peers. Like she'll do her routine, and the last thing she does is she hits it 3 times over the net, the balloon over the net with her peers, and then she's out, right? And so that's been the most mind-blowing thing for me is like, I think I figured it's the supports, like finding the right things to help the kids at the right times. And so that for me was kind of my. And so, and she is very proud of herself. Like she'll walk out and be like, I did that with my class.
That's phenomenal.
Yes. So good. But talking about unified PE, can you describe your unified PE class, your setup? How many kids you have in class? How's it work for you?
Yeah, it's funny. Again, you heard me mention it before, and this is a topic that I do it, but I do think it requires nuance, right? So
it does. We've talked about that.
Yeah, it requires a lot of nuance, and I think people hear it and they think, "Oh, great!" And so I just want to provide a little bit of background of what I face in my district to understand why this is a model that I choose to support and things like that. But I'm also going to speak to some difficulties I've had with the model this year at a high school that I support, not to anyone's fault of efforts or anything like that, but just the reality of the students and things like that. So in the state of California, students are required to get at the elementary levels every 10 days, get 200 minutes of physical education. At the secondary levels, get 400 minutes of physical education, right? And so whose job that is, it's not we are not employed at a level that is, then the adaptive physical education teacher is third period every day and it's this separate setting, but that's their PE class, right? So it becomes a general physical education thing. And the other piece to it that is sort of union related, and there's so many levers to this, is that where can you get the kids so that classroom teacher with the 12 kids can get their prep time too, right? So that the kids are not in the classroom, right? So we face
the prep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it falls on physical education, right? And so that's sort of the scenario I found myself in. And so that's when it's been like, I felt really compelled to be like, well, I need to team teach this then, because I don't find it personally ethical to take 8 to 12 kids with significant needs and just be like, here you go, general PE teacher, plus you have 35 other kids, let's say, right? Yep. So where we're getting it wrong in my district still, and in a district as big as mine, I don't know that there's a solution right around the corner. Where we're getting it wrong is that we're not at the ideal 1-to-1 ratio, right? We're not at the 1-to-1 ratio. So we are, it is the students that maybe fall on an adapted phys ed caseload, plus then that general PE teacher can be up to a total of 50 students, right? So it's kind of filled out with that capacity. What's happened for me this year is my numbers have just ballooned at the high school I support, where we've added we've gone from 2 classrooms to 3 classrooms. They're all maxed out. So, I mean, we're talking like 30-ish kids with significant needs. Now, not all of them qualify for adapted phys ed, right? Yada, yada. They still have needs of their own. There's a reason that this is their least restrictive environment through educationally on campus is through a separate setting and things like that. So, what's been really difficult this year is that I have some students with significant needs, some students that have transitioned from our medically and physically challenged programs. So that's actually our most restrictive program, into our extensive support needs program, right? But these are still students with significant needs, right? They're in gait trainers, they're in walkers, they're in wheelchairs a lot of their day, they're in Rift-in chairs, they're in all these things, right? And so what's been really difficult for me this year is providing them quality physical education, right? So what I'm going to do is they will continue to come to this unified setting, and I've of course modified, and I've come up with almost like they're like a class within a class, right? Like, because their needs are what they are. But I am starting second semester here when we get back. I am actually going to see a group of 4 students in a small group separate setting, because like for me to work towards goals and things like that, like it just ain't the setting, right? It just isn't. Like it's me trying to be reflective and and looking at it and be like, all right, but like, what do these kids actually need, right? So that's what makes it difficult. And that's where I think, administrators see it as an option to be like, oh, this is great. Like, we can get our teacher prep that that contractually we have to get them prepped. Great, cool. This teacher is willing to co-teach. Like, we can make it work, but it's still like, it's not for everyone, right? It just isn't. And so unfortunately, it's kind of where all of our students from our ESN population end up. And so it's tricky in that sense. That being said, a lot of great still comes from it, right? So just again, a little bit of backstory. The reason I've fallen into this model is before I think even Unified was out there. My co-teacher and I at the middle school I currently support, this is going back to like 2014. Again, the students from my population came, and I had just inherited the school. The philosophy was they will go to class. We don't put any effort into the kids that we put around them. It's just whoever's schedule comes at that time, right? And we had a bad mix. Like no one's fault of their own. We just had the kids weren't the naturally empathetic, all the things you need in a unified setting, right? And so that teacher and I looked at each other like, hey, like this has got to be better. Like this isn't it. And so we were like, what if we like recruited kids or asked kids if they would be open to this? And so that's kind of where the model evolved from, and that's where we see a lot of it. So yeah, I've given you such a long-winded answer, but I wanted to explain that I just think it's really important that there's nuance. And what I'm facing is the kids are going to physical education, and general ed students are choicing into it. But our ratios are a little off. And the other thing I'm working with admin on is be like, hey, you got to make sure the kids understand this isn't just easy PE.
Yes.
And then, this also isn't where you just give us your Statue of Liberties. And what I mean by that is give us your sick, your broken, whatever, right? So don't give us just, what we're finding is they're giving the kids that are maybe individuals on the autism spectrum, but they are going to have jobs and probably families someday even, and like they just don't like PE. So like, oh, there's a lot of support in that class, so we'll put them there. But that's also not the right fit, right? Because they struggle to understand the purpose of the class and what it is. And so it's working with admin to ensure that like you understand like what unified PE actually is. And it's meant to still be an authentic physical education experience. It is certainly about inclusiveness, but it doesn't mean it's the least restrictive environment for everyone. So to finally sum it up for you and take a breath and let you jump in here, it can range anywhere from, on average, 12 to 20 students ESN, and then anywhere from 35-ish to, sorry, I should go backwards on you. Actually, anywhere from 20 to 35 general ed kids that are in a class together, and it's co-taught.
Yeah.
So, but we're just facing some real challenges, and I wanted to take a minute to actually really highlight those real challenges that come with it, and that it's just not a one-size-fits-all model.
100%. Got to have those meetings with, when you're in the IEP meetings, like, hey, this is what it is, like least restrictive environment. I know for us, like in the high school, like general PE is not what's going to work for a lot of my caseload. And so my students way back in the day, like it was getting them out of their classroom for 20 minutes, coming to DAPE and small group settings. And like, it just felt like they were very segregated and not getting out to the rest of the building. And so for us, our model has worked pretty well at the high school, and the middle school is just a lot smaller, and the ratio is a little bit off. But also I feel like having a different ratio for us, like sometimes works. Like sometimes I have less peer partners, and that is okay. And sometimes I have more peer partners and then they're more engaged. Like sometimes it's just not, exactly what we dream it to be. But the thing is that we're always trying to do our best and always trying to advocate for what works and what is appropriate and what the IEP team has decided. Right. So we're just always trying to be a really good advocate for our students, for our caseload, for ourselves and our general PE friends too. So I kind of want to switch gears. So I want to be sure that we hit on this last topic, the last two topics. And I know like teaching is definitely like where we have some commonalities, but we have some commonalities elsewhere too. And that's your love of soccer. Yeah. And for me, like I took the traditional club soccer routes. I played club soccer my whole life, played high school soccer, got a state tournament win. Went to the state tournament a couple times, went to college, captain of the soccer team there. Like that is kind of like a traditional like soccer experience. And I kind of I want you to share about your soccer experience and where it has led you, because it's so cool. It's so cool. Thanks. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So growing up, my experience probably was similar to yours to a point, and then I go on this winding path, so to speak. But yeah, I grew up, I mean, like anything, right? My parents wanted me active and in sports and all these things. And so soccer became one of those things, and I enjoyed it. And then, I started playing club soccer, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever it was, and was on fairly decent club teams. But then we actually moved to a part of rural New York where like boys soccer wasn't a thing, which might sound really weird to people, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Just girls soccer was a thing, and then the football, like there wasn't enough kids to field teams in like this, like we already had a football team and cross country and things, and so adding a soccer team, like there just wasn't the population for it. So I went away from soccer from about like 13 until 22. Like the fact that this story comes to be what it is actually really wild when I take a step back and think about it. So anyways, grew up playing soccer, eventually went away from it, played American football, baseball, tennis, a little bit of golf, right? And so I became halfway decent at tennis, qualified for like our high school sectional playoffs and things like that, and won MVP my senior year. So, and I always started to wonder, like, hey, like, how would I do athletically, like on an even playing field, right? I never experienced that. I didn't grow up playing any disability sport. I didn't, right? I don't even know what was available then. And also I'm the youngest of 4 kids. My parents just raised me how they knew how to raise kids. Like, we'll put you in and like, things are going to be hard for you, Chris, but you try your best, right? That was the mentality. So I had played a little bit of junior college tennis. I mean, candidly, I was a fringe player on that team. So not like exceptional, but I did start to wonder, like, what would it be like on an even playing field? So I started to look around. I'd actually sat in Dr. Lauren Lieberman's class on disability sport, and she had showed a Paralympics video, because back then the coverage on the Paralympics was NBC just put together this 3-hour package, and that was it. And it was just like stories, right? And so we watched it over like a couple classes, whatever. The coverage has improved immensely, and you can actually watch the games now and whatnot. But I started to be like, I wonder on the even playing field. And so I started to do some research. And I was originally seeking out tennis because that's kind of where I had been, but there was only wheelchair tennis. And so I just kept poking around the website, and I stumbled upon soccer. And soccer at the time was specifically for individuals that had CP or have survived strokes or traumatic brain injuries, because those are similar disability groups, right? So that's the thing about the Paralympics is they group you by similar disabilities, right? And so there's a version of visually impaired soccer that like we didn't play against, obviously, but there's a version of that for individuals that are blind or visually impaired. So I saw this. So I just sent an email to like which is not my personality either, by the way. Like not I was like, hey, like I used to play. Like I was very transparent. I didn't try to make it seem like I was going to come in and like. So I sent them this email. So this is like summer of 2006. I'm coming into my senior year of college. I'm like, hey, like I used to play. I haven't played in a number of years, but I see that you're people with CP. Like, do you have a tryout process? Do you have anything like that? And I get an email back from the team manager being like, hey, great. Like, that's great. Let me connect you to the coach. And so I end up talking to the coach, and this coach, guy by the name of Jay Hoff. I mean, this guy has coached at the highest levels. He was an assistant. He was one of the lead assistants on the 99 women's World Cup team. So, I mean, he's coached me.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, like he's been there. Like he's coached Mia Hamm. He's coached Michelle Akers, Brianna Scurry, Cindy Parlow. Like he was their coach, right? So this guy. So anyways, I didn't know that at the time. I come to learn about him after. But we have a phone call. He's like, hey, I'm going to be in Rochester coaching in the A League, which was a men's minor league division. Do you want to come out and say hello? Come out, basically just does a once glance over in the conversation. He doesn't actually even see me play. He's like, hey, we want to bring you out to San Diego for a training camp. I'm like, huh? What? Like what? Ooh. So those of you who don't know, there's an Olympic training center in San Diego. He's like, yeah, we train out there. So we'll bring you out for a week. And so they did it. So they bring me out, and we're going to play. We have 2 games lined up against Canada. So right away I'm thrown into international competition, right?
My gosh.
I haven't played in years. And I did well enough to get invited back in November, and then November turned into another camp. And then all of a sudden that summer of 2007, I'm playing in the Pan American Games, which is an Olympic style event for North and South America, if people don't know. So I'm in Brazil playing in that. I've gone, and in that year I went to Holland for a tournament and balancing my student teaching. But yeah, I became all in. I became hyper-focused, right? So a big thing, like any kid growing up, I wanted to be a pro athlete. Now that wasn't going to happen in a traditional sense for me. All of a sudden I had this avenue to play sport at an elite level on an even playing field. And I had a big gap to close. And so, so for 9 years, I was on what it's now called the CP, the US CP national soccer team.
Okay.
On it. It was called the Paralympic national team. 9 years, competed in the 2012 Paralympic Games, played in some World Cups, and traveled the world pulling on the US jersey, which I don't know that many people could ask for anything more. I've actually been, I'm not in, but I have made the final cut a couple of years for the Soccer Hall of Fame even. So pretty cool stuff that has come of it. I'm on US Soccer's board of directors because of it. So yeah, it's opened up this whole other side of things for me. That's the reason I'm in San Diego. Like I got the job here. The job opened up here, and Dr. Lieberman, yet again, she's like, hey, you're graduating in December with your master's. Like this job's open. Like you should look into it. And I was like, San Diego, and that's where the team trains. So like I could advance my career and then also still train for the Paralympics. Like, so it just made too much sense. So much of I can point to so many things in my life. When I met my wife, and so like so many things happened for me just sending an email. So like, that's what I tell people about like chase your dreams. Cause like, you never know, getting to hear the national anthem played when you're doing it, walking into the Paralympics, 80,000 people, opening ceremonies. I mean, so many things.
Oh, gosh.
Invited to the White House, met at the time President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. And so
amazing.
It's like, I can't even, my family jokes that they wish they had mild CP. So, because, but yeah, it's been incredible. So I also joke with people that I'm trying to put together one of the most impressive average paying resumes out there is what I tell people. So
the most impressive average paying resumes. Yeah, oh my gosh. All because you sent an email. There's a trend on Instagram and TikTok right now is like where something comes up and they do something it's very important that you do. Is like, like that's it.
That email, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
An opportunity comes up, you find something on the website and you
Yeah,
send
look,
an important email. It's very important that you do.
it was that thing where luck meets preparation, right? Because they also, the team was in a transitional phase looking for players, right? I could have emailed at a different time and been like, hey, like, yeah, you're not at the level we need. Um, but, but yeah, and also though, at the time, it probably speaks to sport opportunities in our country, though. You know, a lot of the players I was around, um, didn't get the opportunities I had growing up. So like the idea of competing and the
Yeah.
idea of holding yourself accountable, and like my coach, I think about this all the time. Something he used to say to us, and it's the simplest idea. It's not like it's profound, but he like one of his coachisms was like take pride in what you do. And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, like take pride in what you do, you know what I mean? And like, but these kids we would bring in, like they like you're trying to get them ready for international soccer, but like they haven't even really had a chance in their community. So like this idea that they're going up against
Interesting.
men competing, like it was so much for them mentally, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so impressive to me. Like I've had these little blips. I got to coach the MNUFC
Yeah.
Unified Teams. That's our MLS. So like doing a little bit of Unified Beyond and like being able to be in the stadiums. But gosh, being able to do what you have done, that just it makes my soccer heart happy.
Yeah.
Like because you giving up soccer for a little bit of your life, like I can't imagine giving it up. Like when my girls are done playing, I'm gonna be really sad because I don't know what else I'll have time for, or like because I don't play anymore. So this is kind of just still my connection to the sport. And you said that you're still on the US. Is it the Federation?
Yeah, so like US, like the US soccer, like the World Cup teams and
The
everything.
US.
Yeah, like the US soccer. Yeah, I'm on their board of directors, which has been a trip. I mean, when I first came on the board, I mean, the people like I like talk about imposter syndrome, right? Like when I came on the board, like there was Dr. Donna Shalala. I don't expect you to know this person, but like she was in Bill Clinton's cabinet, and I'm like, what am I doing in the same room with you? Like, and she went on to serve a term in Congress out of Florida too. Like, she went on to do that. Like, she was the president of Wisconsin Madison, and then University of Miami as well. And like, I'm just like, what am I like? You've run the Clinton Foundation at times. Like, what am I doing in the room with you? You know what I mean? Or like the commissioner of Major League Soccer's on the board. Like, you know, like these people that are, you know, it's just so sometimes you look around and you're like, so my first few, it felt like first few years, I was like, I don't even know when to speak. Like, I'm going to be honest, but finding your footing. And so, you know, it's another, probably we can go a lot deeper on that another time if you want to have a round two.
We should have a whole nother podcast. I'll bring you back and we're going to have just like all these awesome conversations. We'll keep going. But I don't want to wrap up this podcast without addressing the most recent news. And that is that you have been notified that you are the 2026 Shape America Western District Adapted PE Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
I fool the best of them. That's my thing. That's what I go to. I fool the best of them, I say, you know?
Yep. And it was so awesome because I had planned on having you in December, like from months ago, and it just so happened to line up that you were notified a couple weeks ago, and then this podcast happened. And so I was like, this is the world's first exposure. I mean, you have your own podcast, but like as the 2026 Adapted PE Teacher of the Year from Western District. So it's really cool timing. So what was it like for you when you got your email notifying you that you were it? You were Western.
Yeah, I was kind of anxious the week of. I think you had texted me like good luck because you knew the deadlines and stuff. And by the way, also I just want to make sure your audience knows how supportive you were through the process, which I'm really grateful for. So thank you for that. Because I am one of those people that I think, you know, as corny as it is, the rising tide lifts all ships. So I appreciate that. So I was kind of anxious that week because they said you'll know by the 20th, which the 20th was a Saturday. And so I'm like, but like, they're not going to send it on are they going to send it on a Friday? That's like a Friday news dump sort of thing, right? You know what I mean? So like, I didn't know. And then, it was like, I think it was Wednesday morning of that week and I got it. And so it says congratulations, like even in the preview, you know, so that was like, so yeah, I was excited. I called my wife right away. She was excited. It was really cool. It's, So it's been a really surreal process for me because I shared with you off air, but I'll just share with everyone here. I don't think it's been my best year of my job just because I have young kids. I'm just balancing a lot, right? I already spoke to the soccer stuff, and and we're hosting a World Cup this year, so there's a lot of time commitments and things. And so I also have young kids who are involved in a variety of activities, and then I just naturally, my caseload of 40 kids has changed a lot, and it's been more intensive, and I've had to, so it's just funny to get in a year that I don't personally feel like I've had my best year. So that's also been a little bit of a, I've also wrestled with it a little bit because I think it's, you're a representative now, right? And so, but I think what was interesting is for those that don't understand the process is once you've won state and you're in this part, I mean, I think I turned in and there was 5 questions, but it ended up being like 11 pages long, I think, of like just talking about yourself. Like, you just have to get comfortable talking about yourself. And again, that's actually not, even though I have a podcast, even though I'm on here, I'm not one of those people that like naturally just is like, oh, let me share this about myself with you. Right. So that process, but it was also a chance to be reflective and be like, am I doing what I need to be doing? And so that was really cool. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I don't know what the year holds. There's some tight time windows coming up. I kind of need to get moving on. What was your experience of the whole national process?
Yeah, so ours was interesting because about the same time in December, we were notified that we had that we were district teachers of the year, right? And so for me, it was in the middle of the pandemic. My students with special education were in person. The rest of the kids were in distance learning. So I had just finished like this distance learning lesson of my kids. It was unified. So my in-person kids were in person, and then we had done like drumming or something with our kids that were at home. Yeah. And so I was clinking my cart into the locker room, like just like disheveled. And I saw the email of like, whoa, it's me. And there was no one around to like celebrate with. So I was like holding it in. But then like our process ended up being really different because we ended up not having to video ourselves teaching because a lot of us were like out, with distance learning and stuff. And then we had to do a presentation about our vision and what our lessons were like. And so kind of just like do a 20-minute session, basically presenting what we were about. And then we did an interview, right? And I think you had to submit a lesson plan or something. And so I went through that whole thing, and it was intense. And I didn't talk to my teacher of the year friends, that our class. So it was like Katie and Sadie and Kasha, who are all adapted PE district teachers of the year. We didn't talk ahead of time. And then like when we finished that whole process, we all texted each other. We're like, can we talk now? Can we talk? What do you guys bring in? What do you guys bring into the conference? What are we going to wear? And we became like instant best friends. And so part of the whole process was me recognizing like I have brothers and sisters across the US that care about what I care about, that will lift me up, as you would say, lift the ships or whatever. And just made me so much better and supported me in whatever I did. And so my wish for you is that you would find that, that the people that are in your toy class become your greatest supporters, your brothers, your sisters. And so part of the end of this podcast, if it's okay with you, Chris, I want to share a little bit of advice when you go to Kansas City, because you get to go to the national conference. So when you go, one way that I kind of showed up was like, I'm just grateful to be here. And I think all of the people that I went with as adapted PE teachers of the year, we all had the same kind of mindset, like, I'm here and I'm grateful, right? It's not, oh, I'm going to be the national teacher of the year. It's like, we're just grateful to be here. Like, we get to have this attached to our name forever. And if we happen to be the national teacher of the year, well, I'm going to celebrate you and you're going to celebrate me, whoever it is. Like, we're going to just celebrate each other because this is really cool. Like, this is a moment to celebrate. And so one of the pieces of advice that I got was take a few minutes or a moment every day to remember that you get to celebrate each other. Like, this is a really special thing. And you said like, it's hard to talk about yourself, but also like take a minute to celebrate with yourself, like every day, like, oh, this is really cool. And it's something we don't get back. So come with that. And the time that you get to spend at the conference is going to be a lot of taking in information. So take some time for yourself too. Don't do all the things, right? You've been to the national conventions, haven't you? Like
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've been to it's been a number of years. They were in San Diego a while ago. But yeah, I'm familiar with the sort of the setup.
Yeah. So just like don't do, and this is advice for all the teachers of the year, right? You don't have to do all the things all the time. Go back to your hotel and take an afternoon to just like take a nap. Go explore the city, things like that. And so just take that mindset with you, because it's going to be a little bit different this year, and it's going to be cool and good and like momentous regardless of who's national, right? So that's what I would give to you as advice going out. But this is your chance now to ask me anything. We always have a session of the show. Ask me anything. Do you have a question that you would ask me?
Well, no, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's tough to say, like, do I have a question? I'm just like, I recognize your process was different, but like, what was you talked about getting like a group of like your cohort is like as tight as can be, but like, what about you individually in the process? Did you learn about yourself that you're grateful for, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I've learned about myself that I can go 100 miles per hour and burn myself out. And I've actually, through the process, looking back now, learned how to say no through this process too, because there will be times where like they ask you to do things, and some things you will get to do, like you get to go on a trip to San Diego. I mean, that's where you live. But for me, it was like going to the ocean.
I met up with Matt Parker last year. Yeah. He was on it. He's like, hey, you want to meet up? And I'm like, yeah. So I got to meet a bunch of last year's, just being like, they're like, oh, you live here? Like, and it's just, so it's just funny, but yeah.
Yeah. So your platform is going to open wide open, like get really big. And so for me, it was like, what about what I love and what I want to do I want to expand and get out there? And I think part of this podcast, I don't know how it is for you, but this podcast was almost a way for me to put things out into the world and put less effort, I guess, less effort, but like love what I do so much. Because when I go to conferences, I love connecting with people. I love sharing information. I love getting to know your stories. But like we talked about, like my district's not going to say yes to every single thing. And so like this platform is a result of being the National Teacher of the Year, like recognizing like, oh, I have a dream, I can go after it. You know what I mean? So some of those things were really, really powerful to me. It's like, if I have a dream, I have now the connections to try and make it possible. And I think that was pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, any advice? You gave me the advice to be grateful, but I mean the actual process, the actual like work going into it. Any advice around that? Continue
to have people look over your stuff, right? And you've always got me. Reach out to Kasha. I'm sure she'll read it. When you go into the interview, and even just like when you do the next steps of your essays, if they ask you to do more essays, continue to just show them who you are. It's their chance. Like they can't get into your classroom, and so share you. I think I received that advice too. Like, the more you can just be you, that's what it's all about. Honestly, being you.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Like I said, I have to get some few things lined up here to get ready to go with the new year. It's going to be fast, but it'll be a great process.
100%. Yeah. So we're going to shift into the part of the show now where we talk about takeaways. We're going to go a little bit over an hour today, and that's totally fine as long as Chris is fine with it. What was one of your takeaways, Chris? Just be thinking about it. And I'm going to share my takeaways. Number one, Chris, I don't know if you know this, but he also has the podcast called Talking Adapted PE. And it was on his show where I recognized like, oh, this is really cool. I wish I could do this sometime. And like Chris was one of those people that actually encouraged me to do this podcast, because the more voices we have, the better it's going to be. And so I think going back to some of my takeaways, Chris, you shared a little bit about like your early experiences and how you had that one elementary PE teacher that was like, hey, I'm here for you. I got you, right? You're going up to do a gymnastics vault. And he's like, it's okay. I got you. Like being that support for your students. For me, that story was really powerful to be like, hey, you're going to have students that need the confidence, that need a little extra support. And sometimes just saying, hey, I got you. Like that was super, super cool for me. We talked a little bit about the nuances and things with unified physical education. It's not always perfect. Is it for every kid? No. But going through some of those challenges and having those connections with each other, being able to work through some of those things and say, hey, what do you think about this? Like that's super, super important. We talked about our love of soccer, and I think we could probably have a whole other podcast about that. I'm going to have to bring you back next year for that. And then just going through that teacher of the year process, like what advice do you have? Like just being you, and how your platform is just going to get bigger, and what do you want to put into that space is going to be really important to you. So Chris, what is your takeaway or takeaways from this podcast?
I just remembered I need to share one more story about that teacher that literally just popped in my head when you brought it up. But the story sort of juxtaposed, because you'd be like, well, why was he teaching that? But at the same time, though, he found a way to make it work for me. So it was third grade, and we were doing the underhand volleyball serve, but it was over a full-size net from what I remember. So again, I don't know why at third grade you'd be doing that. Let's just set that aside, that maybe the gentleman still needed to grow a little bit. But anyways, I can't hold the ball in my left palm to strike it with my right hand for an underhand serve. And conversely, I don't have enough power to swing with my left hand to propel it, right? And so I remember where he's like, well, why don't you just bounce it and hit it, right? And so like that stayed with like, great. And I became one of the best servers then, right? You know what I mean? Because like it was that. So again, just that small thing, nobody batted an eye. And I went from being really frustrated, I remember, to then feeling really confident, right? So it speaks to like that impact we can have by just thinking slightly outside the box even. The other takeaway that has stuck with me is you talked about like the story you shared of your student where like you've almost created their own like boundaries within your setting, right? Mm-hmm. So you use a mat, I think you said, and I was just thinking of some of the wanderers I have, right? You know, mm-hmm. And like, could I do a better job of actually just giving them, whether it's tape on the floor, whether it's chalk, whether it's a mat, like how mm-hmm. could I be like, hey, this is your space, right? As opposed to wandering through everyone mm-hmm. else's space. This is yours. And like, here's your schedule. Here's your checklist. Here's whatever it is. So that really got me thinking. And then just Jen, I think just how positive you are, right? I think you're a classes half kind of person. And so just how positive you are, how much you care about the field, how much you want to share with the field. I think that's incredible. So those would be my takeaways. And I just am grateful you had me on. I enjoy sharing my story. So thank you so much.
100%. Those are such great takeaways. Thank you so much for sharing all that you did today. I'm going to continue on in our slides here for those of you watching and listening. I want to share a little bit about how you can connect with us both during and after the podcast. So you can join us in the conversation. We love interacting with you live, and you can find Heartbeats of Adapted PE on X or Blue Sky. Our handle is Heartbeats of Adapted PE. And you can also watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Heartbeats of Adapted PE.YouTube. We're going to reverse that. Hold on. So here's the thing. So here's fun stuff. This is my first time using a teleprompter. So that sounded really, really cool. But sometimes really, really cool doesn't work. So we're going to go back. We're going to do that again. So just so you know, so here's how you can connect. I'm going to slow it down. This is where Chris and I talk about how we just don't edit our podcast, and this is fun. So you can connect with us at Heartbeats Adapted P on X and Blue Sky, and you can email us at heartbeatsofadaptedpe@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com at a Heartbeats of Adapted PE podcast. And if you'd rather reach out directly, you can always email us, right? Just like I said, heartbeatsofadaptedpe@gmail.com. I also just want to give a shout out to the Health and Physical Education Collective, because they are now at 1,000 physical education and health teachers and adapted PE teachers all on their program. And you can access the podcast there as well. And I don't know if you knew this, but the Shape America YouTube also has picked up this podcast. So you can find Shape America YouTube. You can find our podcast there when you touch the live or click on the live portion. We also are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I would be absolutely remiss if I did not mention that we are sponsored by Fit and Fun Playscapes. And they are 25-26 sponsors. So Pam Gunther over at Fit and Fun, thank you so much for taking on this podcast. Lastly, just thank you for everyone who's listening. Chris again, and if you need anything or want to interact with us, please be sure to reach out. And we're going to wrap it up there. I hope you will join us in January for our episode number 11. Cannot believe that we've been doing this now into 2026. So we're almost getting to a year. So as we prepare for Shape America National Convention, if you're going to Kansas City, be sure to reach out to Chris and meet up with him. He's going to be out there along with all the other teachers of the year. So thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in 2026.